Hey, deserving listeners, it's just me today. Today I'm going to talk about time management. The reason why I'm going to talk about it is because I've received a lot of emails from patrons asking me to talk about it. They have all been observing that I spend, or I get a lot of things done according to their perception. I don't know if it's true or not, but from their perception, they're like, Kirk, you have a podcast that you spend a good amount of time on. You have a job as a professor. You have a job as private practice as a therapist. You also have a private practice for supervisors. You also spend time with your family and your friends and your pets. And you surely have chores that you do, and you have to drive, and you have to exercise, and you have to sleep, and you're writing books, and you're in therapy, and you have musical projects that you work on and stuff. And how do you get all these things done? It doesn't make any mathematical sense. Now, what I said to that, so people have been saying this to me since I've been an adult. Maybe even when I was a teenager, I don't know, but people would say to me when I was younger, in my 20s or something, they'd say, man, you get a lot done. It seems like you have all these, it's like, they'd say, for me, I have this job and I come home and that's it. Whereas you have a job and you do all these other things, and when I was in my 20s, when people would say that to me, I would think, well, I would think there was something wrong with their perception of me. I'd say, well, you don't know how much time I actually waste, or you just think I get a lot done when in fact I don't really get a lot done. Or I thought maybe I was just surrounded by a lot of people who just had really bad time management skills or something. But then in my 30s, more people started saying these things to me, and I started really trying to figure out why people were saying this to me. And I started to observe other people, particularly people who were close to me, people who I could observe throughout the day and evaluate how typical people spend their time. And I did start to realize that I did get more done in a typical week than other people. And I didn't spend that much time thinking about it, honestly. I just was like, well, I guess that's a strength of mine. I have weaknesses, I've talked about my weakness for eating nachos. Those aren't very healthy, but I eat nachos a lot. And so among other weaknesses, like, I don't know, arrogance is another weakness of mine. And I just sort of chalked it up to that and didn't really think that much about it. But then the patrons of the podcast were emailing me recently and saying, like, and including actually my mom and my sister were also asking me questions about this. I don't know why all of a sudden, but people were asking me about it, and they're saying, like, Kirk, how do you get all these things done? It doesn't make any sense. And again, if I was just reacting normally, I'd be like, I don't know. I don't really know how to answer that question. But since the patrons asked, your questions are my command. And so I sat down and did a deep dive on my thoughts on this. And at first I thought I didn't have much to say, but as usual, as I go deeper into this topic, I'm like, actually, there's a lot of things I can say about this. I think throughout my life, since I was a teenager, maybe even younger, I have been thinking about time management on some level, and have always had it running in the background of my mind. You know how you have like background programs running on your computer that you don't know about until you actually check the registry? Well, I feel like that's what's happening in my brain. There's always a question mark as to whether or not I'm wasting my time or not, and whether or not something could go faster with less effort. And so I don't know. And so today, that's what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to talk about what I think about it and my various tips, my philosophies about time, and all that stuff. Now, I don't know if any of this stuff is going to be applicable to anyone else. It's just me, and this isn't my area of expertise in terms of my profession. This is just one layperson talking to other people about time and whatnot. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm given my notes. This is going to take me at least an hour and a half or something. All right. Welcome to the Psychology in Seattle podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kirk Honda. I am a therapist and a professor. This is an episode that is just for patrons of the podcast. So if you're listening to this and you're not a patron yet, this episode will end before the content begins. If you want to hear the full episode, you have to go to patreon.com and become a patron of the podcast. Once you become a patron, you'll get access to hundreds of patron-only episodes. You also are free from listening to a lot of the commercials that you have to listen to if you're not a patron. And remember that a portion of your monthly pledge goes towards various charities that we support.